Welcome, Bruchim Haboyim, Be'ezer Hashem. We're on Daf Gimel Amud Beis at the two dots. The Gemara brings a Brisa, Tanu Rabbanon. Arba Mishmorois Have Halaylo, Dive Rabbi. Rabbi is of the opinion that night is broken into four different parts. Rabbi Lesin Oimer Sholosh. Rabbi Lesin is the opinion that it's three different parts, like we saw in the Mishnah and earlier in Daf Beis, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, that Rabbi Eliezer holds that the night is broken into three different parts. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Lesin Oimer Sholosh My Taimo. The Rabbi Lesin, what is the reason for Rabbi Lesin? Dirshu, it says in the pasuk, Vayavoy Gidoin Umeya Ish Asher Itoi B'Ktzei HaMachane Rosh HaAshmores HaTichoina Tana Ein Tichoina Ela Sheyesh Lefonea Ulacharo. The fact that it says Tichoina is mashma that there's a beginning and after. Tichoina means the middle. So there was a mishmar before, a mishmar after, and now a mishmar in the middle. V'Rebbe my Tichoina. So what's meant by Tichoina according to Rebbe, who says the night is broken into four different parts? Achas min hatichoina shebetichoinos. One of the middle of the middles. Rabbi Lesin miksiv tichona shebetichoina. Tichonos tichoina ksiv. It doesn't say tichona shebetichoinos, like Rabbi wants to suggest. Rather, it says tichoina. Tichona is mashma the middle. My time at Rabbi. Now, Rabbi, who does say that it's broken up into four different parts, what is his rationale? Om Rav Zreiko, Om Rabbi Ami, Om Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Kosuv Echad. One pasuk says the following: Chatzois Laila Akum Lohoidois Lecho Al Mishpatei Tzikecho. David HaMelech says, Chatzois Laila, I will get up and thank you for the Mishpatei Tzikecho. Because of Echad Oimer, Kidmu Einai Ashmoros. My eyes precede, plural, Lashon Rabim Ashmoros. HaKetzan. Arba Mishmaros Have Halayla. That there are four Mishmaros in the night. Because since it's Chatzois that he gets up, and since it's already that his eyes preceded the Ashmoros, that means there are already two, so it follows that the middle of the night, right, was already after the second Ashmora, which means that there are four Ashmoros. That's the opinion of Rebbe. Rabbi Lesin Sovalo Rabbi Yeshua. He holds like Rabbi Yehoshua. This nan, as it says in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yeshua Oimer, this is a Mishnah that shows up on Daf Tes Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yoshua Oimer Ad Shalosh Shos Shekein Derech Melochim La'amoy B'Shalosh Shos. Rabbi Yehoshua says that he's of the opinion that you can say Kriya Shema Shel Shacharis until the third hour, because that's the Derech HaMelochim to get up in the third hour. Now, since David HaMelech was not like Shar HaMelochim, and therefore he got up earlier than them, so therefore he got up from Chatzos Halayla, and therefore from all the way there until the second hour, he was already then a combination of 8 hours, 6 hours from Chatzos until the morning, and 2 hours before in the morning as well, giving us 8 hours, which is already a total of Ashmoros. So let's see inside. Shish delelya v'tarti diyamamo havulahu shtei mishmoros. The fact that he then says, I am not like the other malachim, but rather I preceded. I was up already before the third hour, and therefore there was 2 hours in the morning, and it followed 6 hours that from Chatzos Halayla gives us a total of 8 hours. From then he was saying, Ashmoros, my eyes got up before Ashmoros, plural, to Ashmoros, which implies that there was 3 parts of the night. 2 parts after Chatzos, and 1 part before Chatzos, a total of 12 hours. Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi says a different way of reconciling the two statements we brought from Tehillim. Mishmares upalga nami mishmoros karilahu. 1 mishmara and a half is also considered to be mishmaros. And therefore when he says, I got up. Kidmu einai ashmoros. My eyes preceded plural ashmoros. It can also include that interpretation of a mishmara upalga. And therefore, even then, that would be considered to be 3 ashmoros in the night. Although he got up in the middle of the night, at midnight, that is already considered to be 1.5. That's a total of 1.5 before the Chatzois and 1.5 after the Chatzois, brings us a total of 3 ashmoros. Says the Gemara, V'omar Rabbi Zreik, Omar Rabbi Ami, Omar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Ein oimim b'fnei hameis, elo dvarav shel meis. Another statement that Rabbi Zreika, in the name of Rabbi Ami, said to Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, he says that a person shall not speak in front of a dead person, kavod hameis. Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, Omar Rabbi Abba Kahana, loy amon ela b'divrei Torah, aval mila da'alma leslon bo. The only problem would be speaking divrei Torah in front of the mace, because if you loy gel rash, it'll be a certain disrespect for the mace, who wouldn't be able to then partake in divrei Torah. And therefore that would be the problem. But mila da'alma, that wouldn't be an issue. V'ika da'amrei, there are those that say, Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, loy omon ella afilu b'divrei Torah. They included even divrei Torah that you can't say in front of the mace. The kol shekain mili da'alma, which is really inconsequential, and therefore it's certainly a degradation, a zilzul to the mace. Now the Gemara says, "V'David bepalga delel yahavakoi." Did David get up in the middle of the night, as the pasuk before implies, b'chatzos halayla? Me'orta havakoi. We see in another place that he gets up already from the evening. Dirshu, as it says in the pasuk, kadamti b'neshef b'ashaveya. So here it implies that he already got up from the beginning of the night. Umimai dahai neshef urtahu. Where do we know that neshef refers to Orta, the night, that he was kadamta b'neshef? Dirshu, it says in the pasuk somewhere else, b'neshef be'erev yoim bi'ishon laila ve'afela. So you see that neshef is in the evening, that already considers to be the word neshef at night. So therefore implies that David Melech already got up in the beginning of the night, not only right at Chatzos, already from the beginning he stayed up. Omer Rav Oshaya, Omer Rabbi Acha, Hochi Komar. This is how you have to say. Me'olam lo ovar alei Chatzos laila b'sheina. Never did Chatzos laila pass me by with sleep. David Melech says, I was always up when Chatzos halayla came. Rabbi Zera Omar ad Chatzos laila haymis namnim. Rabbi Zera gives a different yishuv. He explains as follows. Until Chatzos halayla, David Melech, he was learning Torah, and he would doze off here and there. Kesus, as a horse dozes off, doesn't sleep a full sleep. Mikan ve'elach, but after Chatzos, hayimizgaber ki ari, he would strengthen himself like an ari and continue his avodas Hashem. Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi said, ad Chatzos lailo haya oisik b'divrei Torah. Until Chatzos halaylo, David Melech, he was oisik in divrei Torah. Mikan ve'elech b'shiros v'tishbachos, and afterwards he was involved with shiros v'tishbachos. So therefore, 3 different ways of explaining this verse. Says the Gemara, v'neshef orta, the Gemara challenges what it said just before, that neshef means the evening. V'neshef ortahu, ha neshef tzafrahu. We find in another verse that neshef implies the morning. Dichsiv, it says in the pasuk, vayokem David mehaneshef v'ad ha'erev lemacharosam. The fact that it says that David, he hit from the morning until the night, means that l'chara neshef means morning, from neshef until the evening. Mashma, from the morning until the evening. Neshef ad ha'erev. So Gemara's understanding that means for the boiker. My lav mitzafra ve'alelia Doesn't that imply from the morning until the night? Lo, says the Gemara, me orta va'ad orta. It means from evening until evening. Yes, the Gemara, Yehochi. Then lichdei ma neshef v'ad neshef. Then why doesn't it say from neshef until neshef? It means evening. Or alternatively, me'ha'er v'ad erev. Why does it say, changing the wording, me'a neshef v'ad erev? Elo, omarav v'trei nashvei havu. There are two different neshef. Neshef lelia v'asi yamama. Neshef means the end of the night that begins the day. Neshef yamama v'asi lelia, the end of the day that begins the night. The Gemara continues. V'David mihave yada palga de lelia emas. Did David HaMelech know when was the middle of the night? When was Chatzois? Ask the Gemara, Hashta Moshe Rabbeinu lo hava yada dichsiv kechatzois halaylo ani yotze b'tech Mitzrayim. When we find that Moshe Rabbeinu had to say kechatzois and he didn't say chatzois, b'chatzois, implies that he didn't know when was Chatzois. Would there be a suffix by Hashem? Certainly not. Elamai must be that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know when Chatzois was. HaKadosh Baruch Hu certainly knows when Chatzois is. Alma misveika misafkele. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't sure when exactly was Chatzois. David have a yada, and David, as great as he wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu. How could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu did not know when Chatzois was, but David HaMelech would know when Chatzois is? Says the Gemara, David simona havale. David had a certain simon that would remind him and tell him when it was Chatzois. The Omar Rav Acha bar Bizna, Amar Rav Shimon Chasida, Kinor haya tolu lemala mimitosa shel David. There was a violin, a kinor, that was hanging above the bed of David. The kivan shehigia Chatzois lailo, baruach tzefoinis v'nosheves boy umenagin me'elov. And then a northern wind would blow exactly at Chatzois, strumming the violin, the kinor, and it would then play on its own. Miyad haya oimei v'oisek b'Torah asher Allah Amud HaShachar. And immediately he would get up and he would be oisek in Torah until Amud HaShachar. Kivan she'olam Amud HaShachar nichnesu chachmei Yisrael etzloi. Once Amud HaShachar came, the chachmei Yisrael came into David HaMelech, and they said the following. Amru loi, they said, David, Adoneinu HaMelech, Amcha Yisrael tzrichim parnasa. Your people need parnasa. Amar lehem, lechu v'isparnesu ze mizeh. Go and feed each other. Make sure they have enough to eat. Amru loi, ein hakomet masbia es ha'ari. A little amount is not sufficient for the ari, for the big lion. Ve'en habor mismala mechol yuso. And the boar, which was an empty boar, dug out already. If you're going to throw some of the sand back into a boar, that's not going to fill it up. Just to throw some sand into an empty boar. Omar lehem. So what was David's response? Lechu, go out, upashtu yedechem begdud, and go assemble yourselves and make war. Miyad yoratzim b'Achitophel. They would take counsel with Achitophel. V'nimlochim b'Sanhedrin, and they would ask permission from the Sanhedrin. V'shoyalim b'Urim v'Tumim, and they would also ask the Urim v'Tumim if they would be successful. Om Rav Yosef, Mikro. What's the pasuk that indicates that this is so? That they asked from Achitophel, and they asked permission from the Sanhedrin, and they also asked the Urim v'Tumim if they will be successful. He brings a pasuk, V'acharei Achitophel b'Nayahu ben Yehoyada ve'Evyasar v'Sar Tzava leMelech Yoav. Achitophel, says the Gemara to explain, Achitophel ze Yoetz. This is the one who's the advisor. V'chein hu oimer v'atzas Achitophel asher Yoatz bayom hahem kasher yishal Bidvar Ha'elokim. The Achitov was the one that they asked for advice. Binayo ben Yehoyada ze Sanhedrin. This refers to asking Reshus from the Sanhedrin. Because after all, Binayo ben Yehoyada was the Rosh Sanhedrin, the Abezdin. The Evyasar Elu Urim V'Tumim. This is referring to the Urim V'Tumim, the Cheinhu Omer. And similarly it says, Ubinayo ben Yehoyada al ha-kresi val-ha-plesi. V'lama nikra shmom kresi val-plesi. Why is the Urim V'Tumim called kresi val-plesi? Kresi shekorsin divrayim. Plesi shemufloim b'divrayim. The words that would be cut, that would be given in a succinct way, and a succinct answer to the question. Ve'achar kach sa et savo lemelech Yoav.